During the night, unidentified objects flew into Polish airspace over the Podlaskie voivodeship from Belarus. Most likely, it was another series of balloons. According to the Armed Forces Operational Command, restrictions were imposed on civil air traffic because of the potential threat. Our findings indicate that there were about 20 balloons. Military statements are reassuring and claim that there was no threat, but the scale of this phenomenon is worrying. Military systems reacted quickly and correctly. They immediately detected unidentified objects that flew into Polish airspace from Belarus. The flight of all objects was continuously monitored by the military radar systems of the Polish Armed Forces. This is an excerpt from a statement by the Armed Forces Operational Command. It also states that the military was not sure what specific objects they were dealing with. Based on the analyses carried out, including the flight characteristics, speed and direction of movement of the objects, it was assessed that they were most likely balloon-like objects moving in accordance with meteorological conditions. No threat to the security of the airspace of the Republic of Poland was found. And here is another inaccuracy, because the next part of the statement indicates that at the time the objects were detected, a threat could not be ruled out. In order to ensure safety, temporary restrictions were imposed on the use of part of the airspace over the Podlaskie province for civil traffic. And although the Armed Forces Operational Command assures us that it is in constant contact with other services and that information is being exchanged with them, Belarusian balloons are still flying into our airspace without any obstacles. It is embarrassing that there has been no decisive response from the Polish services, from Donald Tusk's government, from the December 13th coalition. This is ruining Poland's position on the international stage, because how can such practices be allowed? It's embarrassing. Poland has anti-drone systems purchased by the previous government. Their use could send a clear signal to our enemies that Poland is effectively guarding its borders. They should be shot down. The Polish army has the appropriate weapons to shoot them down. There are anti-drone systems, so these drones can also be neutralized without shooting them down. The border guard has the appropriate tools. Why is nothing being done about this? This is a fundamental question that should be asked of those in power. Those in power are either unable or unwilling to act. Witold Zębaczyński, from the December 13th coalition, as a member of the National Defence Committee, argues that although the government is aware that further violations of our border are part of hybrid war against Poland, the best response is no response. There is a game going on about how we are able to identify these objects and classify the potential threat they pose without having to resort to our highest air reconnaissance and defence capabilities. Interestingly, when two Belarusian helicopters flew into Polish airspace in 2023 during the Law and Justice government, Radosław Sikorski was outraged that they were not shot down. I believe that Russian rockets and armed Belarusian helicopters violating Polish airspace should be shot down. Provided that the debris falls on our territory, we are within our rights. It is better for Lukashenko to understand preventatively that NATO is not to be trifled with. At that time, however, it was an isolated incident. Now balloons from Belarus fly into our territory not infrequently. The last such incident took place less than 2 weeks ago, on the night of January the 16th. According to our information, more than 50 balloons flew in at that time. A day later, the Near Zalezhne portal, based on information from the border guard, reported another 16 balloons. We received information that there were balloons in the air, which is why we published the article. In the afternoon, however, the border guard denied this information, although this map shows that the planes were avoiding eastern Poland at that time. Later, it was unofficially revealed that the balloons were indeed near the Polish border. It was probably the weather that caused the balloons to turn back from Polish airspace to Belarus, which was finally confirmed by the authorities the next day. The Białystok branch of TVP, which is in liquidation, also contributed to the chaos of information. Although one of the balloons fell in the parking lot next to the station's headquarters, its employees did not consider this to be particularly important information. The police reported the detection of 2 balloons, allegedly smuggling cigarettes. The objects that violated the airspace are smuggling balloons. The services are securing the remains of the balloons along with illegal packages of cigarettes without excise duty after the approximate location was indicated by the Armed Forces Operational Command. Today, the border guard repeats a similar narrative. The first objects discovered are smuggling balloons. Activities are underway to determine the circumstances of the incident. Nearly 60 balloons also invaded Polish airspace on the night of Christmas Eve. In November, dangerous acts of sabotage took place on the railway tracks on the route from Warsaw to Ukraine, and in September, Poland was attacked by more than 20 drones. The pattern is the same. We want to see how Warsaw will react, how our allies in the European Union will react, and above all, how our NATO allies will react. Everything indicates that we must be prepared for further such incidents, because the government is not putting any pressure on Belarus, even though it could do so by blocking the railway border crossing, which is crucial for Belarus, Russia, and even China. Belarusian transport crosses our border with Belarus. This border with Belarus is the basis for such European-Russian transport, and Chinese, where China is the sponsor and patron of the Russian Federation. That's 3 phone calls. That's 3 phone calls de facto, really. Of course, it will probably take a week or 2, because you would have to make this show of force and show that all the trucks are standing still, and someone is losing money. But 2 weeks of such actions and this hybrid fight from the border would be lost. However, the message is going out to the world, including to capitals hostile to us, that Poland is unable effectively to ensure the safety of its citizens. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we must answer the question of how our country should really react, whether such objects should be shot down, and whether we are prepared for such actions, because, ladies and gentlemen, the number of balloons is really symbolic. Today we must ask ourselves, among experts and politicians, whether we are prepared to neutralize even the number of objects that Kiev faces every second or third day. At this time, although there is no official information about how many balloons specifically flew into Poland last night, according to our information, there were about 20.